Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock, 21st May 2020. I am live. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes for our friends to join. As you all know, we are quarantined at home, and now we have completed close to 60 days. I remember I went to the court last on 20th of March 2020. That was a Friday. I read a case in the court and I came back, and then the Honorable Prime Minister announced the Sunday curfew. That was 22nd of March. And then 24th, the first lockdown started from 25th for about 21 days. Then lockdown 2 for 19 days. Lockdown 3 for another 17 days. Now we are in the midst of 4th lockdown, which probably will go till 31st of May. So we all have followed social distancing. And I'm very happy to see that almost 99% of Indians have followed the guidelines very, very scrupulously, except for some people who are always there, to violate. And some, of course, have faced some very serious hardships. It's very, very unfortunate. It really pains when we see what is happening on the road with the migrants. Be that as it may, today's talk is organized by the Virtual Lawyer. It's a Instagram page which is managed by Janvi Sharma, advocate, and she called me up, and she and I had a discussion about what to do, what kind of talk we can have with you all. And so during the time when we were having a discussion, there are a couple of incidents which happened in and around Delhi, which really shocked the conscience of everybody as to what is happening, in the digital technology world. So, when we are quarantined, of course, few of the advantages is that we spend more time with the family members. But one very significant change which has happened is how we have imbibed the digital technology, how we have imbibed our, the phones and the computers and the iPads and the internet which we have. So internet has come as a sensation to everybody in the world, particularly during the period of quarantine. And that is why we have chosen today's, topic as cyber defamation. And Janvi and I had a discussion, and we decided that let's do something to do with cyber law. Because we all are spending so much of time on the internet nowadays. We are glued on our phones and iPads most of the time. The time spent on the screen, if you see every, phone has, some kind of a mechanism to find out how much time we have spent on the screen. And you will see the time spent on a screen is much more. It has doubled. And in some cases, it has gone 3 times. In my case, it has gone almost 3 to 4 times. I never used to be on internet for so long. So therefore, it has become very important, and it's very pertinent for all of us to understand the ramifications and the consequences of writing something disturbing on the internet. So we have chosen cyber defamation as the topic for today. I will be elaborating law on defamation as well as cyber defamation, and the reason why we did it is also, I must share it with you. Recently we have seen a very unfortunate incident where a young boy jumped from the 11th floor of the building and committed suicide. He was a teenager. He committed suicide. This was in Gurgaon or maybe Faridabad, because of an Instagram post which is uploaded or posted by a young girl about an alleged molestation which happened with her. She did not speak for some time, did not file any complaint in the police, but chose to file to post something on Instagram which has read by millions of people. I'm not going into the veracity of the allegation, but see the implication of that act of that young girl. Out of exuberance, out of frustration, maybe out of anger, she did it. And this poor chap committed suicide because she felt so embarrassed that this allegation, whether it's right or wrong, has gone to millions of people. So he was scared of tarnishing of his family's reputation on this allegation. So it really affected me, and I thought that I was looking for an opportunity to speak on this so that we can guide the youngsters as to what they need to do with regard to digital technology and where is the Lakshman Rekha, from where you have to stop. Second incident is this boys' locker room. Now, boys' locker room also is a chat between the youngsters where the youngsters allegedly, again, we don't know what the facts are, allegedly posted some morphed pictures of girls which are obscene, circulated and of course chatted without realizing the implication of this kind of a chat. It may be out of exuberance, it may be out of fun, but see what the result is. The result is the administrator of that group is in jail. And today we read in the newspaper in the morning that Maharashtra government has issued notices under 149 CRPC to various people who are posting comments which are obnoxious, which are affecting the reputation of certain people. So notices of warning has been sent to them today. We just read in Indian Express in the morning. So taking all this into consideration, we thought that we'll discuss cyber defamation today. Now, it's already 7 minutes, so I will be speaking for some time. And what I have been told is that Instagram has a time limit that the session automatically snaps after 60 minutes. So I'll try to speak for about 40, 45, 50 minutes. In case I'm unable to conclude because I have to answer your questions, then I will switch off around 55 minutes and I'll rejoin. So a second session will start. This is just for your information. Second, all your questions which you are asking me are being jotted down by Janvi, and she is compiling those questions. She'll be emailing it to me in another 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. So I'll read them from the email and then I'll answer to you. Okay. So let us now understand what is cyber defamation and why it happens. Now, my personal understanding is that we have to divide era into pre-internet and post-internet. Now, in pre-internet, majority of defamation cases were cases where somebody has made a statement which is reported in the newspaper or written in the magazine, which is defamatory, and the aggrieved party feels that it is defamatory. He or she goes to the court, files a case, and the case is contested in the court of law. Now, post-internet, where the dissemination of information has no boundaries, you write something right now, I send a tweet, it can be read by somebody in New York in seconds. See the reach of the tweets, the comments which we make. So therefore, and all informations are available. You, on a click of a mouse or a push of a button, we get information about anything under the sun. That's the power of the internet. Now, in case there is so much of power which is there in the internet and we have an opportunity to use it, therefore we have to be very careful. I am reminded of what Spider-Man said, Peter Parker, in one of the movies, that with immense power comes immense responsibility. With more power, more responsibility. So first word of caution which I want to give to my friends is that you have to be very, very careful of what you write, because what you write can harm the reputation of an individual which is so important to him. Now you must also understand, we the men and women, after our life, what is most important for us? The most important thing for us is our reputation. So that's why people guard that reputation, because you take years to build that reputation. It's a professional reputation or a social reputation. It takes years, painstaking work, and nobody can tarnish it or spoil it in seconds by writing a message on Instagram or Facebook or any other medium for that matter. So therefore, a word of caution: when we use the internet, when we write something, we have to be very, very careful. Now, you must understand what is defamation. Before I go into cyber defamation, I must read the definition of defamation to you so that you understand what we are talking about. So the definition of defamation is given in section 499 of the Indian Penal Code. So let's read it together so that we understand what we're talking about. Whoever by words either spoken or intended to be read, or by signs, or by visible representations, makes or publishes any imputation concerning any person intending to harm. Now, intending to harm or knowing or having reason to believe that such imputation will harm the reputation of such person. Now, so therefore, an act of defamation to be criminally punished, one has to establish that he knew that this imputation will harm his reputation. So there has to be a knowledge, there has to be an intention to harm the reputation of someone to commit an offense of defamation. Now, defamation, the definition has 4 explanations and there are 10 exceptions. Now, I can elaborate now in a while before I go to the next step. So in explanation, what they have mentioned is, there are 4 explanations. First is with regard to a dead man. If you speak even about a dead man, it can be considered to be a defamatory statement. So therefore, that is allowed. Then if you defame a company or a firm, even they have a right to file a complaint. And the third and the most important, that even if there's an alternative argument given, an imputation in the form of an alternative or express ironically may amount to defamation. So even if it is not direct, it is indirectly made, then also it is defamation. But fourth is very important. You must note it down. It's the most important explanation. It says that criminal defamation will be a defamation when it is in the eyes of others. If A and B are fighting a case, but there is no witness who comes up and says, when A defames B, but there is no witness and no one who comes up and says that yes, I feel that statement made by A was defamatory to B, then it will not be a criminal defamation. So mind explanation 4, please mark it, very, very important. Now exceptions, I'll deal with them later. So this statement or imputation made by someone against others with the knowledge and belief that this imputation will harm the reputation of the second man amounts to criminal defamation, right? Now, there are 2 kinds of defamation. One is a libel and second is a slander. You don't need to go deep into it. Libel is something which can be understood, which is in a written form, and slander is like oral. So libel, of course, more if you're talking about cyber defamation, then it has to be a libel because it is being written down on a medium, on a computer or any substance. So therefore it is a libel. Now what you need to see is 499 I have read to you, and then 500 is the punishment. Another section which is important for you to know is section 199. 199 is the power of taking cognizance by a learned magistrate, right? When you file a complaint, the cognizance is taken under 190, and then 191 onwards there are certain exceptions. 199 is an exception that complaint of defamation can only be filed by the person who is aggrieved. I'll share with you certain cases where someone is talking about some personality, for instance, Prime Minister or the President or any minister, and some third party comes up and files a case that he has defamed so-and-so leader, and I feel aggrieved. Therefore, I have come to the court. The court says, no, you have no legal right to come. It is the person who is defamed should come and file a complaint. So some aggrieved person is the language which is used in 199. Please mark it. So 499, 500, 199 CRPC, not IPC, CRPC. And then we have to see the Information Technology Act, Section 66A and 67. 66A has already been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in the case of Shreyas Singhal. I'll give you the citation. You must read that judgment. Very beautifully written by Justice Rohington Nariman. One must read to understand how a constitutional validity of a particular provision is decided. Very interesting judgment. And 67, of course, is posting something obscene online is also punishable for 5 years. But it has to be tried. It has to be investigated. Unlike defamation, which has to be filed in the form of a complaint in the court, right? So next is, before I go further, I would like to explain it to you, the two circumstances, two cases, so that you understand what I'm talking about. One is a case where somebody makes a defamatory statement. It's an exchange of words. One person defames the other, is category A. Category B is where I'm expressing my opinion about certain thing, about a class of people, for instance, not particular individual, but a class of people, and how the law deals with both of them. Because people say we have a right of freedom of speech and expression. Article 19 says that you have a right. Yes, of course, it's my freedom of speech. But the law says freedom of speech doesn't mean that you can harm the reputation of somebody else. I'll share with you the judgment again, but I'm trying to categorize two kind of cases. Cases A, imputation, attacking the reputation of an individual. Category B, an opinion which is made by someone about some system, something maybe against a society, maybe against a religious outfit, maybe against a religion, maybe against a class of people. Whether it will amount to criminal defamation or not is what we're going to discuss, because these two examples will clarify most of the law. So I'll take two cases. First is the case between Mr. Ram Jethmalani and Mr. Subramaniam Swamy. Now this is a case where Dr. Subramaniam Swamy made a comment about Mr. Jethmalani. This was in the year 2006. The case is of 2006. The incident must have happened before, where Dr. Subramaniam Swamy made a statement and said that Mr. Jethmalani, who was representing the accused in the case of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi's assassination matter, representing the accused, and it was a LTT dispute. So therefore, Dr. Swamy said that Mr. Jethmalani's fees is paid by LTT, which of course was a very serious matter, that how can you accept a fee from a banned organization. So it's an allegation against an individual. That individual filed a case and took it to the court that it is defamatory and I don't accept this statement, this is a false statement and it will affect my reputation. Case goes to the court. It's a civil defamation case which ultimately was decided in favor of Mr. Jethmalani and some compensation was ordered. This was Delhi High Court judgment, and you must note down the citation of this judgment so that you can read as to what I'm saying. This is AIR 2006, Delhi, page 300. Mr. Ram Jethmalani versus Subramaniam Swamy, AIR 2006, Delhi 300. Why I'm sharing this case with you is it falls in category A. Now category B is where a person makes a statement against a class of people which may be defamatory but doesn't tarnish the reputation of an individual. Is a case of S. Khushbu versus Kania Mal. This is a case of that actress Khushbu, who made a statement and that about premarital sex. There was a survey which was being conducted by a magazine with regard to the sexual habits of people, where she made a statement. Certain class of people got up and say that she is defaming people by saying that there are these youngsters and get into premarital sex. And then various cases were filed all over the country against her. Now she contested those cases and ultimately matter came to the Supreme Court. And she said that it's my opinion. I have a right of freedom of speech. I am not defaming anyone, but I'm stating a fact. Please go and have a survey in the society. There are people who are indulging into all this. I have every right as a citizen of the country to make a statement. Here the discussion was whether she has a right of freedom of speech and expression or not, whether she can express any opinion without identifying a single person, without tarnishing the image or reputation of an individual. The Honorable Supreme Court says yes, she has every right to express her opinion, right or wrong, and there is no specific person whose reputation is at stake or whose goodwill or reputation was tarnished by her. So a comprehensive judgment was passed by the Supreme Court. You must note down the citation. It's interesting. So this is the second box, which is box B, 2010 5 SCC, page 600. So I am now differentiating between two cases. You must understand, in the first case, knowingly that the statement made may harm the reputation of an individual, criminal defamation, civil defamation would be made out. In another case where an opinion has been expressed, where Article 19 protects the person concerned, where the citizen of a country has a freedom of speech and expression, is protected. So therefore, going back on definition, when we make an imputation against an individual, knowing and having knowledge that it will affect her reputation, his or her reputation before a third party. So therefore, this is criminal defamation. Now there are various other cases which are there, and I will deal with all of them. There is a case, just to give you examples, there is a case between Mr. Arun Jaitley and Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. And late Mr. Arun Jaitley, who was at one point of time president of DDCA, was handling the affair, and a statement made by Mr. Arvind Kejriwal with regard to some corruption, and Mr. Jaitley took it seriously and said this is absolutely false. Mr. Jaitley filed a case in the court seeking compensation and damages for 10 crores. Matter was heavily contested and reported in the newspaper, but later on the matter was settled between the parties, and therefore there is no conclusion which was drawn. But I am bringing a case like this in the first category, category A, where you are talking individually against someone, and therefore making imputation against him will amount to defamation. And then various other cases which are filed. There are cases which are filed against Mr. Arvind Kejriwal by making various statements, tweeting and making statement like, just to give you another example, while giving a speech, he said he referred the police officials as Thulla. So this statement was considered to be defamatory. One of the police officials goes to the court, files a complaint against him, saying that he has defamed the entire police machinery by using this word. And the complaint is entertained by the magistrate. Summons are issued. He goes to the court. He appears and challenges the locus standi, saying that this particular official doesn't have the locus standi and he's not some aggrieved person. So therefore, on that technical ground, it was challenged, and the ultimately learned magistrate agreed with the argument of Mr. Kejriwal and discharges him at that stage. So I'll bring this case not in first category but in second category, where a generalized statement is made about a force, but force cannot file a case. An individual, of course, has filed a case who has not been referred in that statement. So there will be a violation of section 199, and violation of 199 means that this person doesn't have the locus to file a complaint. So this is again in category B. Then recently a case has been filed against Miss Mahua Moitra, who's a member of parliament from TMC, by Zee Television, Mr. Sudhir Chaudhary, on the ground that while giving an interview, she made an allegation against the Zee TV owner. I'm not repeating the allegation, but allegation made and complaint is filed in the court. Here the allegation was person-centric, against an individual. Therefore, it comes in category A. The complaint has been filed, summons have been issued, matter is pending. So I'm not making any comment, but I'm just trying to categorize the kind of cases. So this case will go there. Another case which happened is between Mr. Vivek Doval and Mr. Jairam Ramesh. Look, most of these cases are political cases. They are between big people, because defamation is a case which is not taken very seriously by normal people. Sometimes people say something and a person doesn't feel aggrieved. But when you reach a particular level, when you attain something in the society, you feel that there is a reputation which is attached with your name, is affected by a statement, then these complaints are filed. Now in this case, the allegation is Mr. Jairam Ramesh made some allegation against Mr. Vivek Doval about some account which he has. So that allegation is taken seriously by him, which he thinks is absolutely false. We don't know the truth. Again, he files a case in the court and the accused is summoned. So it comes in category A. So you see, this is the way how defamation works and how the cases are filed and how the categories are made. Now we have to deal with how the learned magistrate deals. What is the procedure? So I've explained it to you. 499, the definition. What is the statement which is defamatory, how criminal offence is made out. I've told you 199, person aggrieved. I've told you IT Act. IT Act is separate, it can't be prosecuted with this. And IT Act has certain provisions of law. I've told you two categories. One is of freedom of speech. One is the statements made against individual. Now, if the complaint is filed, what is the procedure? The procedure adopted is a procedure of a summons trial. Now, summons trial procedure is given in chapter 20, which starts with section 251. So, summons trial means trials of offences which are punishable up to 2 years. These are not warrant trials. So, the procedure is very simple. It's before a magistrate. It's a private complaint. So, when complaint is filed in the court, the complainant has to come and give his statement. I've already told you in terms of section 199, complainant has to be a person aggrieved. So person aggrieved comes to the court, files a complaint under 200, and the Honorable Supreme Court in many cases have said that particularly in a case of defamation, the duty of a magistrate is at a very high pedestal, because it's a fight between two individuals. It can be a vindictive fight. It can be a motivated fight. State is not involved here. So the duty of magistrate goes up. The scrutiny of a magistrate goes up. The application of mind is more serious in this case. That's what the Honorable Supreme Court says when the Supreme Court upheld the constitutional validity of section 500, which I will just discuss with you. I'll share two more judgments with you. So coming back on what is the duty of the magistrate thus has to apply his mind, take down the statement of the complainant, take down the statements of those people who are in the proviso, who say that proviso 4, which I showed you, explanation 4, that in their eyes, in their perception, the person has been defamed. So therefore, the scrutiny of a magistrate is done. Summons are issued. When summons are issued, the accused is called in the court. When accused is called in the court, accused enters appearance, takes bail, and he is either exempted or he continues to appear in the court. Very often, the courts entertain the application of exemption and permit them not to appear in person and let them appear through counsel. Now, the question of law is whether at that stage, if you tell the court and convince the court that the person who's filed a complaint is not person aggrieved, should the magistrate entertain that plea of the accused at that stage of appearance and discharge? That is a question of law which is very, very pertinent, and normally they entertain, sometimes they don't entertain. The law is not very clear on this, but I'll answer to you that. But let's read 251 so that I can explain it to you, that the procedure does not contemplate the provision of discharge. It doesn't have a provision of discharge. When the person goes to the court and appears for the first time after the summons are issued, what is told to him is this. Let's see the language of 251. When in a summons, when the accused appears or is brought before a magistrate, the particulars of the offence of which he is accused shall be stated to him, and he shall be asked whether he plead guilty or has any defence to make, but it shall not be necessary to frame a formal charge. So at this stage, it is the court's requirement is only to give him the substance. So the language of the provision does not contemplate a situation where he can be discharged. But just to tell you, there are various judgments which say that yes, can be discharged, and there are some judgment which says can't be. But for your knowledge, the Delhi High Court is dealing with a reference which has been sent by a magistrate to him. Please tell us what to do. That reference is pending. I can give the number of the reference. This is reference number 4 of 2019, which is sent to Delhi High Court by a magistrate seeking clarification. Please tell us what is the law on this point. So when we talk about procedure, now we are in the trial. 251 notice is framed. The trial starts. Evidence is adduced by the complainant. The accused will give his defense later on, and a judgment is passed. If he pleads guilty, of course, he'll be sentenced and convicted. If he doesn't, then there'll be a proper trial. So someone's trial procedure is a very narrow procedure. It's a very short procedure. So of course, the power of the High Court to deal with the petition is there under 482 and Article 226, 227, where writs can be filed challenging the entire proceedings. So this is the procedure which is given in CRPC with regard to how the trials have to be conducted. Now, there are certain complications which I would like to discuss it with you. Now, what are those complications? Complications which I have personally experienced in the last about 4 or 5 years, where I have challenged those procedures. Just like, for instance, one of the complicated question is, suppose a person tweets about someone, defaming him. Let's presume for a moment that a defamatory tweet is made by someone, and we all of us open our Twitter account, we see the tweets and we react to it. So there is a defamatory tweet which is in existence. I open my account and I like it. But I at the same time feel, no, let me write something agreeing to that tweet, or maybe not agreeing to that tweet, and I make a comment to that tweet. Third option is I retweet, but I don't make a comment. Retweet has an option of retweeting with a comment. But I'm saying 3 probabilities: liking, making a comment, and retweeting. Now, what will be the liability of this man who has liked it? Now, liking can be on 2 bases. First is, I like the comment. Sometimes when you don't like the comment, also you like it to show that, look, I'm just, pressing that button because I don't like it. That's an argument which some people have taken. And if that statement, although is defamatory but pertinent, I'm saying pertinent, I'm not going into the veracity of that statement. I'm saying if it is pertinent, it can be retweeted. So if it is retweeted, what will be the liability of this man? Very, very interesting question. I have raised it in the High Court. Notices have been issued, but the matter is not decided. So the issue is, what will be the liability? So they were coming back on when I started in the beginning. We as internet users, we on social media have to be very, very careful of what we do on the screen. Now, where is the problem? The problem is when we meet someone and we confabulate with him, we converse with him, we talk to him, there is a level of restraint. There's a level of self-restraint. That I should not say this, it may harm the reputation of that man. He will feel bad about it. Or there is a third party, there is a third person who's standing next to me. He will feel bad or she will feel bad. So there is an initial self-restraint when we meet and talk. But when we go back home or when we go to our office, we are alone, we have a digital technology with us, we have an iPhone with us. then that restraint unfortunately is not there. There are some people who lose the sense of morality and respect and write whatever they want. First category. Second category, where they deliberately write. Although in cyber defamation, we deal only with those people who deliberately write. But I am again giving a word of caution that it is our responsibility when we use, because internet is such a powerful medium, we lose our sense of self-restraint. We write whatever we want without understanding. We think that people may not read it, maybe only he or she will read it. But imagine a tweet of yours can go to anywhere in the world within seconds. Now the transmission of information is in seconds. There is not even a second in that case. So imagine the impact of the words which we use on the internet. So a word of caution there. So coming back what I was saying, talking about Twitter, is you have to be careful of liking, you have to be careful of writing a comment, you have to be careful of retweeting. Tomorrow retweeting can be made as an offense. Today it is not. Today what I have argued in the court is that suppose one tweet is retweeted by 5,000 people. If you see all these big celebrities on Instagram and Twitter, they have thousands and millions of followers. So if they write something, within seconds and within minutes, there are maybe 1 lakh, 2 lakh likes, and there are lakhs of retweets in case of Twitter. So when a complainant is aggrieved of that tweet, will he make 10,000 people as an accused? Or can he pick and choose that from those 10,000 people who have retweeted, I want to file a case only against 5? This is the argument which I have made, which may be accepted, maybe not, I don't know. It's pending adjudication, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. But this is a grey area. So law has to develop on this. Today the law has not developed. Today this law has to grow because of the fact that 5 to 6 hours a day now we are spending time on the technology, which we never used to do. So now children also, now if you see the younger generation, they are more into digital technology. Their entire study is on technology. Their communication with their friends is on technology. When they travel abroad, they talk with their family on technology. Their time spent is much more. So therefore the law has to grow on this. So coming back on Twitter, these are 4 or 5 important questions of law. First is liking, making a statement, and also the retweeting. One has to be careful because although it's a gray area, but we never know, tomorrow the law may be that everybody is responsible. So be careful. In case it's a defamatory tweet, one should not deal with that or criticize it. If you criticize, of course, then you are not going along with the person who will make the tweet. You are trying to say something. Now, second is the complaints which are filed through power of attorneys. The law says that it is not permissible. In fact, the case filed by ZTV against Mr. Kejriwal resulted into this because of the fact that what I was told, I have not read that, but I think it was closed purely on that ground that it was filed by a power of attorney because the person who's defamed himself could not file it. So second proposition of law, again, aggrieved party should file it in terms of section 199. And then the serious repercussion of the defamatory act. I mentioned to you about this young boy who has committed suicide, and because of that Instagram story which was placed, we don't know the veracity, but see the implication of that post. If that girl had filed a police complaint, police would have investigated to find out the truth. But today, without any investigation, there's an allegation against that man, that boy, and boy has committed. So this is the ramification of a defamatory statement. So therefore, we have to see now whether in a case like this, suppose the allegation is false, then what has to be investigated? There will be a complaint of defamation against that girl that she has defamed. Even when the man is dead, because although when the statement was made, he was not dead, but read to you the explanation one, which says even if a person is dead, if somebody talks about him, it's a defamation. Second is abetment to suicide. So, father of the boy has filed a complaint saying that she has abated the suicide by making this false allegation. So, it has to be investigated. But I wanted to touch this on the ground that this is a substantial question of law as to what will be the effect, whether the effect will be investigated or the defamatory act will be investigated. Since both these offences are different, 306 can be investigated, charge sheet can be filed in the court, and defamation has to be in the form of a private complaint. Both can go concurrently. Both can be filed simultaneously. So I would like to take the questions. Let me just see whether Janvi has sent me some questions or not. So if the questions are coming, I will start taking all of them. Yes, I've got the questions. Okay, so I've not read them, so I'll be reading with you. This is these are questions about 11-12 questions in the first 20-25 minutes. So your first question is asked by the Law Gardener. It's an Instagram handle name. The question is, does cyber defamation include memes and comics? Will it, even though intentionally created to defame, but also contain comedy or humor or jokes to be an exception by so-and-so? I think I've already addressed to you, and I must now, I think, refer to you just to answer his query. You must read the judgment of Mr. Subramaniam Swamy. Yes, please write down the citation, Mr. Law Gardener. It is Subramaniam Swamy versus Union of India, 2016, Volume 7, SCC 221. This is a judgment which upholds the constitutional validity of Section 500. So, the argument of Dr. Swamy was that this power of defamation can be used by the government, by authorities, by big corporates to suppress the view of the public or a common man. Therefore, and these common men have freedom of speech and expression, they can say whatever they want. The Honorable Supreme Court dealt with all those arguments and also dealt with the argument of right to reputation. The answer of your question is that every individual has a right to protect his reputation. As I told you, after his life, what is the most important thing for him? Is his reputation. So Article 21 protects that. Supreme Court manages to discuss both Article 19(2) and Article 21 and ultimately holds that yes, you can't harm the reputation of an individual. Therefore, it depends on facts of each case, but Section 500 has been held to be constitutional. So therefore, just to answer your question, no, my dear, although it covers memes and comics, but it has to be within the limit of not tarnishing the reputation of an individual. Otherwise, the person will face consequences. One of the colleagues was not promoted. He or she created a fake Facebook page and posted negative comments on it. The aggrieved is a principal of a Delhi University college. Will it be defamation? Any other remedies? By Mr. Sahil Kakkar. Mr. Kakkar, this is of course a disgruntled employee who has not been promoted. Of course, he has remedies available in law. Go and file a case wherever you want to do. File a suit in case you want to recover something or you're not promoted, but he has no right to create a Facebook account and defame the college or the principal. He is committing an offense. See the multiple offenses he is committing. He's not only defaming the college, he's also creating a fake passport. That amounts to forgery. That amounts to an offense under the Information Technology Act. So it's a very serious matter. Please tell that disgruntled employee not to do it. Is defaming on WhatsApp group also cybercrime? Of course, this question is by Madam Indu Prasad. Of course, that's what we are talking about. What is cyber defamation? Cyber defamation is a defamation which has been done in terms of Section 499/500, but online. but on a digital format. So defamation is a defamation. If it is on a digital format, it becomes cyber defamation. Punishment is the same. Procedure of trial remains the same. The explanation remains the same, and 10 exceptions also remain the same. Question number 4 by Mr. Abbott Shriji. It's again an Instagram name. What is your opinion on decriminalization of defamation vis-a-vis freedom of speech and expression? Sir, I have already mentioned to you, I don't need to say anything. The Honorable Supreme Court has already pronounced in the case of Dr. Subramaniam Swamy. I have given the citation. I'll give again to you. 2016, Volume 7, SCC, page 221. So, their Supreme Court has given preference to Article 21, right to reputation. That there is a Lakshman Rekha. Of course, there is a freedom of speech. Write whatever you want. Give whatever opinion you want. But don't cross the Lakshman Rekha and damage the reputation of that man. Therefore, it will be an offense. So, it is already answered. Third is, if a girl posts online about being harassed by a boy, disclosing his name and other details, and also state that she has no evidence to support the same, will it amount to defamation? I think this is by Aditi Saxena. Madam, I have just given you a reference about this boy who committed suicide. And in case there is an allegation of harassment or there is an allegation of molestation, it has to be inquired into. Sometimes there is a reluctance, there's a hesitation on the part of the aggrieved party, the victim. I can understand that. But if you are writing on the digital platform, which is being publicized all over the world, then you might as well substantiate it. Otherwise, he or she can be prosecuted. Can an allegation of any sexual offense against a person made on social media come under defamation? Of course, of course. In case, number one, look, if the case is filed, I'm just trying to distinguish your case. If a case is filed with the police, matter is being investigated, there are reportings. There are reportings of the court proceedings. There are reporting of the judgments. But if there's an allegation which is made, which is found to be false, then of course defamation will lie. Role of media. Accusing person, the question I have just answered was of Mr. Shubham. Next is by Mr. Ishan Mishra. Role of media. Accusing person before investigation is over and making unhealthy comments. I very firmly believe that the media has to play a very, very important role. I am very against trial by media. Media has absolutely no right to discuss the merits of the case, discuss the evidence of the case, even when the investigation is going on or trial is going on. I'm very, very clear about it. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to challenge that. In many cases, I have done, I am successful also. But they have absolutely no right to discuss merits of the case. They can report the judgment, bar and bench, live law does it every day. Every day. They have every right to do it. But they can't discuss merits and start giving their opinion on it, which is extremely dangerous. So I'm not in favor of that. Role of media has to be very, very, very responsible, I would say. So I agree with you. They have to be very responsible. Question 7 is, does cyber defamation include roasting people online? Very popular on social media these days by Law Gardner again. Law Gardner, this is your second question, I think. Yeah. Of course, it's permitted for comedy. Yes, there are some people who just don't bother, and I'm not nominating them, but yes, we see them every day. But of course, it should be within the limits. The Article 21 right to reputation should not be affected. That's what the Subramaniam Swamy case there. But yes, sometimes we don't take the comedian seriously, right? There is a ongoing tussle between Kamra and Mr. Arnab Goswami, so everybody enjoys it. Both of them are not taking action against each other, maybe because there's a comedy going on. But yes, tomorrow you never know, this may go to the court. So there is a Lakshman Rekha again which should not be crossed. Retweeting, where a person who originally wrote the tweet was not made liable and the person retweeting was held accountable by Abbott Shriji. Yes, it happens. This is a pick and choose policy where you don't file a case against. It has happened with me. I have already challenged. I'm not nominating the accused, the person, but I have challenged this. That main person who filed who posted something on YouTube was not prosecuted, but somebody who spoke about it was prosecuted. So the court at the time is with us, and they state the proceedings. Difference between civil and criminal defamation by Abhi. Criminal defamation is in terms of 499, 500. Civil is for damages. The procedure of both are different. The tone and tenor are different. If we talk about criminal, we have to make sure that it satisfies the essential ingredients of the offense. When you talk about civil, then there are other parameters. What if the person wrote about deleted, what if the person wrote but deleted the post? Later media makes the post and the deletion viral. Will person still be held? If the post is deleted totally, the evidence may not be available. But if we see the life of that tweet, suppose the life of the tweet is for about a week, people have already seen. What is required for criminal prosecution is few people will come and give a statement that we saw the tweet, this is the printout of the tweet, and in my eye, he was defamed, therefore a criminal prosecution complaint will lie. What is the locus standi to file a complaint by Shubham? I have already explained the locus standi is given in section 199 CRPC. So you have to go in 199 CRPC. I've got another 6 questions and then I have got another 5. So no, there are much more. Okay. So I'll be online for another 5 minutes. I think 7 minutes. Then I will end this session. And I will restart in another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, because of the time lap which is there. There is a duration which is mentioned that I can't exceed 60 minutes, otherwise it automatically disconnects. But I'll answer the remaining, questions. So this question is by KJ_8761. How do you balance the view of social media growing as platform of coming out with grievances where the conventional and formal platforms have failed with the obvious evil of social media trial? Well, you are saying that balance the view of social media growing as platform of coming out with grievance where the conventional and formal platforms have failed. Look, social media is extremely popular. KJ, we all know that. It is more popular than our conventional newspapers and televisions and movies. So therefore, and the reach is very, very long. So of course, we have to be careful. We have to draw that, Lakshman Rekha. We can't say that in social media you have a right to say whatever you want. We have a constitutional right of freedom of speech and expression, which I have already narrated. And Subramaniam Swami's case dealt with that. So even if we say that social media is very prevalent, doesn't mean that we will not follow the law. We have to follow the law. Is there a pertinent need to make an amendment in IPC in section 499, 500, especially regarding cyber defamation with relevant provision of IT Act? Also, if the offense should be made cognizable, which it is as now acting as by Mr. Manan Sabharwal. Well, since the Supreme Court has already dealt with this issue and said it is constitutionally valid, we don't think we need to change it because it is individual centric. IT provisions are also there. IT provisions are more stringent, and IT provisions have to be complied with it. They can be investigated by someone separately. But defamation, of course, is something which is a private complaint, which has to be tried in the court of law. I don't think there's any amendment required at the moment. So let both of them simultaneously work. If somebody is aggrieved in IT, we'll deal with IT. Somebody aggrieved in the defamation, then a private complaint will be filed. So I'm just terminating this session. We'll start again. Hi, good evening. I'm back again. This is session number 2. I've just terminated the first session, and I was answering the questions which were left, and there is a question by Miss Sonali Mittal, and she says, in the boys' locker incident, did the girl defame the boys when the girl posted the screenshot alleging about the chat that was going on the ING group. Look, Sonali, I don't know the facts of this case. I'm only aware of what's happening in the, through the newspapers. But what is relevant is that what is being investigated is not, in a strict sense, defamation. What is being investigated is the provisions of the Information Technology Act. Of course, defamation is one, but since it is being investigated by police, so we have to see, this section 66, B, C, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 67. 67 is an offense punishable for 3 years and more, where some obscene content is posted. So defamation certainly will be inquired into, but it can't be filed along with the FIR because the procedure is different. Now, if you see the latest judgment of Mr. Arnab Goswami, you will understand. In Arnab Goswami's case, the Supreme Court has clarified that defamation allegations cannot be investigated by the police. Defamation allegations can only be tried by the court of law by filing a private complaint. That's why the counsel of Mr. Arnab, the complainant, has withdrawn that argument from the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has clarified this aspect. So I can't say, but defamation and IT offences cannot go together. Mr. Sagar Vash, what if the post is made and then deleted after creating havoc? How is the person liable? I've already told you that every post has a life. If it is posted and deleted within a jiffy, within seconds, not being seen by anyone, circumstances will be different. If it is posted where there was a life of that post for some time, and during that time, if the damage is done, the consequences will follow. The complaint can be filed. Now again, question with regard to boys' locker room by Rushil Batra. In the case of boys' locker room incident, can a private closed group be investigated? It is considered to be a breach of privacy. A very interesting question, Rushil. Out here also, what I was told was it was a private group, but somebody leaked. So the offense is committed when somebody leaks. Now coming back on the definition of defamation, that the defamation is in the eyes of someone else, in the eyes of a third party. If it is a private group, if it is a drawing room talk, it is a chat between themselves and nobody files a complaint, nobody will come to know about it. The offense will be only when it is leaked. When it is leaked and it is made public, the consequences will follow. And now another set of 5 questions by Rushil Batra. Can a defamation suit be filed against a defamation case previously filed by someone which turned out to be motivated false, if the cause of action remains the same? Suppose there is a case with regard to a defamatory content was filed and tried in the court of law. There is a result, whether acquittal or conviction. Then one process is over. It will be a case of double jeopardy. So one cause, of course, if there are multiple causes of action, you can't. Now coming back again on Mr. Arnab Goswami's case, Supreme Court has quashed all other FIRs pending in the country, saying that it arises out of one cause of action. If it arises out of one cause of action, only one complaint can lie. T.T. Anthony versus State of Kerala, judgment is very clear. So out here, it will be a case of double jeopardy. Second question by Sonali Mittal. When the Me Too revolution began, people alleged that they were sexually harassed by stating that they were sexually harassed by stating the person's name instead of filing a legal complaint just to share their experience. Is that defamation? Yes, my dear, it is defamation. I remember there is a trial which is already pending where in Me Too movement some allegation was filed by someone, and that gentleman has taken her to the court. Matter is pending. I am not making any comment, but just to answer your question, yes, in a Me Too movement, if you file an allegation but you don't prosecute and the other person says it is false and he proves in the court of law it is false, then he can certainly file a case of defamation. And Aboleto says, is there any way to exhibit the document after that particular person's testimony is recorded during trial? It is not related with this, so I am not answering. Via retweeting, this is a question by Rushil Batra again. via retweeting, isn't the person also essentially publishing it again on own account though? Yes, retweeting simpliciter can be construed to be an endorsement of that statement, because retweeting has an option of making a comment. So you can retweet by clarifying, I don't agree with the statement. So it can be construed. But suppose there are 10,000 tweets which are retweeted. One tweet retweeted 10,000 times. How many complaints will you file? You can only file against one. So you can't pick and choose. I will file against one originator and I will file against one retweeter. I will not file against 9,999. That will show malafide. So therefore this argument can succeed. We don't know at this stage. It is too premature. I can't say, Rushil, but I'm arguing this matter in the court. So let's see what happens. Another question by Ms. Deepika. If an individual made a statement to another individual with regard to their profession, will it be concluded as civil defamation or be protected under Article 91? I think I've already addressed this, Deepika, by saying that you can't cross the Lakshman Rekha. You can't attack the reputation of an individual. You can always say he is not a good lawyer, or you can make a comment, but you can't make a comment which affects the reputation of that individual. It depends from case to case. Of course, now we see so much of trolling on the technology, which is so bugging. It is so annoying that people have absolutely no respect, no sense of morality, no sense of responsibility, but they say whatever they want. So that's why in the beginning, most of the time, I was trying to address my young colleagues and the young children that be very, very careful, be circumspect of what you write. There should be no damage done to the reputation of an individual, but yes, it's happening day in and day out. I hope one day there'll be some regulations about it where trolling can be stopped, trolling can be curtailed, and trolling can be prosecuted and punished. So, okay. Oh, they're pouring in 10 more questions and then 19 questions. I'll take a few more. I can't answer all of them, but it'll take another 1 hour, but let me try to quickly answer. Okay. So what legal remedies of policy changes can be recommended for non-regulation of new media portals purely working through social media, particularly in case of small towns today relying on media pages created on certain media wherein news is not verified? It's a question which does not deal with defamation, but yes, I agree, as I've been agitating, that we should have a policy. I feel that IT ministry should try to come up with a policy dealing with our freedom of speech, and also because they can always put reasonable restriction on our freedom of speech. They should come up with policy which should deal with a situation like this. And then, can judge visit the place of crime or dispute? Again, Aditya, this is not related. You can ask me on my Instagram directly. That's called what? Direct message. You can send me DM. Do you think of section 66A of IT is unconstitutional? Vikalp Sharma. Okay, Vikalp, let me tell you the judgment. I thought you know it. But there's a case of Shreya Singhal, which deals with section 66A. Supreme Court has already declared it unconstitutional. Citation is 2015, volume 5, SCC, page 1. Okay, so I don't need to answer, you can read the judgment. Since everyone is defaming China, spreading COVID-19, what is its remedy internationally? By Ms. Salinas. Well, that's an allegation. So today it's an allegation. Of course, if somebody is making an allegation, you have to substantiate it. I think in US, a suit has already been filed where they're saying that China is responsible for COVID-19. If they filed a case in the court, they might as well substantiate it, bring evidence. Merely by making a statement in the air is not enough. Even if we talk, we have to talk on substance, on material, on something which we have. So of course, if it's a false allegation, China can always file a case of defamation. But these are internationally, these are international disputes. Of course, if you feel China is responsible, somebody should file a case. Making a false complaint to high authority of corruption by an IAS and then posting the same letter addressed to higher authorities on Facebook and WhatsApp is cybercrime. Yes, my dear, Harshit Chopra asked this question. Anything which is placed on internet, online, which is defamatory, can be taken to the court if it is defamatory in the eyes of few of his colleagues, friends or relatives. Should the government mull to link social media accounts with Aadhaar? Can't say it's a policy decision. I certainly would say it's not required. Mr. Nishit Jain asked this question. But you have to ask the government whether they should do it, they would like to do it or not. Aadhaar is a completely different ball game. It has got nothing to do with our social media accounts. But yes, we keep on hearing things that our social media accounts are being monitored by people. That is why very often the service provider blocks the post and the tweets if it is not appropriate. So there is somebody who's watching. You must know that. That's why every comment of yours is scrutinized. What is the actual liability of people in the media industry, such as the Arnab Goswami incident? Miss Aditi 2692. Of course, as far as this incident is concerned, there are two parties who are contesting the litigation. And it is in the courts. It's not appropriate for me to comment. But yes, as far as media is concerned, not addressing him, but I can address media as a whole, that media is the fourth pillar of our democracy. They are very, very powerful. People have said that with higher power comes higher responsibilities. They have to be very careful of what they write, what they say. It has to be independent. We all know who's independent, who's not. That is why people watch some channels are not watched. But yes, of course, it is a very, very powerful medium. So they have to be more responsible. Can you please elaborate? This is Miss Giti 93. Can you please elaborate on the issue of unlawful use of CCTV footage to defame and troll a female resident? Yes, madam. If it is, we are using the word, elaborate on each unlawful use, unlawful CCTV. So one is unlawful usage. We are talking about if the CCTV footage is genuine, it can be used in any proceeding. Where is the question of unlawful use? Unlawful use would be if it is stolen from somebody's this recorder without his or her permission and using it somewhere to defame, then it's a different matter. But if CCTV footage is used to prove a particular allegation, it can be used. If it is stolen and used to defame someone, then case of defamation can be filed, and also theft, a case of theft will be filed. Can civil and criminal prosecution initiated simultaneously by Shah Marik? Yes, it can be filed. They are two mutually exclusive jurisdiction. Criminal complaint can be filed simultaneously. Civil suit for damages can also be filed. Since everyone in India is roasting TikTok, will it be a defamation case? And if yes, what are the remedies available for TikTok to initiate? I think I read it in the papers yesterday that somebody who's a popular person on TikTok, his account has been suspended because he was defaming someone. So again, you can't cross that Lakshman Rekha. You can't cross the limits where you start tarnishing the image of someone. If you are, then your account can be deactivated. Okay, another 9 questions, then another 6. So, pouring in. What do we not, why do we not issue warrants for defamation? Why merely summons? Madam, it is a case which is filed in a private complaint. So therefore, there are no warrants. Of course, if after private complaint summons are issued, accused does not appear, then warrants can be issued for his appearance, although it's a bailable offence. If there is no police complaint by victim and no proof provided, can action be initiated against the user of an Instagram page by solving complexities? It can't be. How can action be taken? Action can only be taken if you tell the service provider of the objectionable content, or you can file a complaint. It can't be handled by any other medium. Who will be held liable for Boris locker room case since the boys were all minors? By Muskan Bansal. Madam, they are being treated as juvenile. There's a Juvenile Justice Act which will deal with their problems. So if juvenile commits a crime, he will be treated in the Juvenile Justice Act, not as an adult, but he or she will certainly be prosecuted under the Juvenile Justice Act. Sir, what is generally the quantity of compensations? Well, I can't say, it depends from person to person, depends on the damage to the reputation of the individual. Question 6, prosecutrix files a fake complaint of rape against an accused. Accused gets acquitted. No proof, no consistency of a statement. Accused spent 3 years in jail because of this. Can be filed defamation by Rachita Garg. Rachita ji, defamation is too, I would say, mild an action. There should be a case of malicious prosecution, and an action under 182 IPC should be taken against her. So there are more serious actions which can be taken. Defamation is very mild. What is the best remedy to stop a private video of a girl leaked to pornographic website across the world? She has already one defamation case. You have to go to a service provider, make a complaint that this content can be removed from there. It is possible. I think you have to contact the experts, the cyber experts or experts into the technology, not a lawyer for this. What is your opinion about Arnab Goswami judgment? Please enlighten. By Himanshu Garg. Arnab Goswami's judgment, in my view, is a right judgment given by Justice Chandrachud, because there are two things which are very important in this case. First is the prayer of sending the case to CBI. This is not a case where a matter can be referred to CBI just because an accused feels that the investigation is not properly being conducted. That's what the Honorable Supreme Court has said. Second, his prayer was that for one cause of action, there are hundreds of complaints. Rightly done by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has quashed 99% of the cases by saying that if it is one cause of action, only one complaint. There is a judgment of T.T. Anthony versus State of Kerala followed by the Supreme Court. Apt decision. And then also, see, Supreme Court has also protected his liberty. He has been protected, and for about another 3 weeks, in case his protection has to be extended, then he has been given an opportunity to approach the court. So according to me, it's a very well balanced judgment passed by the Supreme Court. Can court order compensatory? Yes, court can order compensatory relief. If I remember, section 357 CRPC deals with the compensation. Okay, last set of questions, another 6 questions. If there is a post in which the truth is spoken but the person files defamation case, will the court first proceed to look into the truthfulness of the statement? By S.G. Matthew. Very, very pertinent question, Mr. Matthew. You have asked me question with regard to the truthfulness of the statement. So I have to come back. I missed something in my initial address about those exceptions. There are 10 exceptions in the case of defamation, which you must highlight, and truth is one of them. And then I'll tell you what is the most important argument in this. So when we talk about 500, there are 10 exceptions, right? One of the exceptions, these are exceptions which have to be proved during the course of trial. In Mr. Subramaniam Swamy's case in the Supreme Court, while dealing with constitutional validity, the Honorable Supreme Court says exceptions can't be dealt with at the threshold. Exceptions have to be proved during the course of trial. So therefore, if you go back and read 499, there are various exceptions which are mentioned here. First exception is imputation of truth which public good requires to be made or published. So if the maker of the statement says that it's a truth, what I'm saying about this man who's a criminal or who's a bad man is because of this fact. So, but that is the defense of the accused, and therefore the accused has to prove this during the course of trial. Similarly, there are other exceptions. There are exception number 2 deals with public conduct of public servants. Third deals with conduct of any person touching any public questions. You read all these 10 of them. They are very interesting. These have to be proved during the course of trial. In the case of Mr. Arnab Goswami, the FIR was under section 500 when it is already the law of the land that only the aggrieved person can file under 199. Should the police be sensitized then? I think that's they should not have registered the FIR under 500. What happens? I'll tell you the problem. It's not that they have to be sensitized. When the person who's drafted the complaint, actually he should know that 500 cannot be clubbed with a cognizable offense in which the FIR is registered. So normally FIR is registered by the police as it is. It is not that they frame the sections. They frame the sections when an oral complaint is made. And in many other cases, sometimes they don't, register the case in all the sentence, all the offenses which are mentioned in the complaint. But most often is they reproduce the complaint as it is. If the complainant has written the sections, then of course the same section is reproduced. So I don't know who's at fault here, but of course, yes, FIR should not have been registered. This question is asked by Mr. Kherwal. Sir, what could be done to make the process of reporting grievances through formal legal measures more accessible amidst the growing trend of doing the same on social, especially in the case of young kids? I think the service provider must have, whenever we download a particular software, there are certain terms and conditions of licenses and other things. We always click without reading. But I'm sure that in all these formats, there is a procedure which is given for filing a complaint. Of course, there are some complaints which are cognizable in nature, so we directly file the police complaint. Some are non-cognizable, then also we can go to the police, and in a case like defamation, we can file a complaint. But yes, some kind of education is necessary. That is why, my friend, we are having a talk so that we all can understand the nitty-gritties and implications of what we write on the social media nowadays. How is territorial jurisdiction determined in case of a cybercrime? Okay, by unreasonable_man1. The territorial jurisdiction is where a person has been defamed. It's a very interesting question again. I really compliment you for that. This is a question, important question. What happens is the complaints of defamation are filed at various places, sometimes to harass the accused, because they say that my friend who's in Chennai read the newspaper. In the morning, he realized that I've been defamed, so he filed a complaint in Chennai. So therefore, wherever a person is defamed, a complaint can be filed. This is, there's a provision in CRPC section 177 onward which talk about jurisdiction where complaints can be filed. So you must read that. Okay, is it last? Okay, the last question. Can the identity of accused be protected in sexual offences until he is convicted by Mr. Abhi92_Bhardwaj? I think it should. It should be. I recently challenged this in the court, where I said that the documents which are part of the case, these documents are sensitive in nature. Therefore, it should not be disclosed to a third party because he's still innocent till he's proven guilty. The court passed order in our favor and injuncted or restrained the police to deal with those papers. But what is important, what you are saying is the identity of the accused. Most of the acts which we read, most of the provisions of law which we read are protecting the victim, not protecting the accused. I don't know, I've never come across any specific provision which says that the identity of accused. Minors, yes. You remember, so many cases like Nirbhaya case, we don't know what is the name of the minor. He is being treated as a juvenile. So minor, yes. Women, yes. Girls, yes. But with regard to a normal accused, I think you and I have to do some more research and find the appropriate provision of law where it is given. Offhand, off the cuff, I don't remember. I think I have answered all the questions. I had a great time because this is a very, very relevant, subject, because it affects the day-to-day life of an individual. I go back and request all my friends, my colleagues, youngsters to be careful of what they write, what they like in a tweet, when they retweet, when they write a comment. We have to be very careful. We have to make sure that we are not damaging the reputation of an individual. Maybe sometimes just for heck, we write, just for our pleasure we write without realizing the ramification of the same. So I hope my talk is of some help to someone to understand the provision of cyber law and the consequences. So again, coming back on what Spider-Man says, the when there is so much of power which is given, then there is responsibility is also there. So higher the power, higher the responsibility. So thank you so much. I had a great time, and thank you Janvi Sharma for organizing this. This young girl manages the page, the Virtual Lawyer. So I'm doing live both on Virtual Lawyer as well as my own page, and I had a great time. This is one of the best things which we are doing during the period when we are quarantined. I wish you all stay safe, stay healthy, stay protected. Even though the lockdown is opening, my personal feeling is only those people who have no other option to go out should go, do their work and come back. Don't unnecessarily spend time on the road, because we are still in the midst of one of the most deadly virus we have ever seen in our lives. So quarantine is the best thing. Let's follow the social distancing and lockdown norms. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Bye bye. Jai Hind.